Inflation Reduction Act impacts Medicare beneficiaries and would-be beneficiaries. And here to talk with me about that is Jae Oh, author of Maximize Your Medicare. Jay, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
Pleasure. So everyone wants to know about the Inflation Reduction Act and how it impacts Medicare beneficiaries and would-be beneficiaries. What can you tell us?
I don't think there's any question about it, Bob, that Medicare beneficiaries are enormous winners here as a result of the Inflation Reduction Act. While most of the headlines come from the idea that Medicare will be able to directly negotiate prescription drug prices directly with the pharmaceutical companies, for me, there are a lot of other details which actually are going to be more practically useful for Medicare beneficiaries, and they'll start right away in 2023. The first of those is that vaccines are going to be at $0. So whether that be COVID, whether that be monkeypox, shingles, which is very, very commonly needed and quite expensive, those are going to be at $0. So that right away will begin in 2023. In addition to that, insulin, we have a diabetes epidemic, in addition to COVID that we are just hopefully trying to deal with, but diabetes continues on, and insulin will be capped at $35 as far as a copay goes. So these two alone will result in tremendous out-of-pocket cost savings for Medicare beneficiaries. A little bit less impactful is the idea that price increases on medications are going to be limited to the rate of inflation. Now, the reality is that the difference is going to be going to the Medicare system, not to the Medicare beneficiary. So this one is going to be a little bit more difficult to identify with respect to whether or not that's going to save you much money. And in addition to that, the market is so competitive that, for example, in generic medications, it can easily be found that some generic medications are $0 if ordered using mail order or a preferred pharmacy. So that one is less impactful. It continues on in 2024 and 2025. Most notably, the catastrophic stage in 2024, once met, is going to mean that is going to cap your out-of-pocket costs as far as Part D goes, or your prescription drug benefits inside a Medicare Advantage plan. So that again is another very large one, because what happens today is if you hit the catastrophic stage, then you still do need to pay 5% or a fixed schedule. But for persons with very expensive medications, that is still hundreds of dollars, if not more. Instead, in 2024, that cap is going to be established, and once hit, then your costs are $0. And more notably, maybe the punchline of everything is that in 2025, there's going to be a $2,000 cap on out-of-pocket costs under Part D or your prescription drug benefits. This is very, very notable because this is dramatically lower than what many people face. In addition to that, a very important component is this reduces the uncertainty for the future for people who are planning on their retirement and where they're going and budgeting for their years under retirement.
Yeah, some very significant changes. You mentioned at the outset that the Medicare will now begin negotiating for drug prices, and my understanding is that it starts out with the 10 most popular drugs initially, and then escalates up to the top 25 over a period of years. Maybe elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure. And that, like I said, that is the one that grabs the headlines. But first of all, that doesn't occur until 2026. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, the pharmaceuticals are pushing back against this motion, actually even filing, I want to say, legal action against it. And then finally, the list is yet to be determined. So we do not know the identification or the exact criteria by which this list of medications that can be negotiated by the CMS, we don't know what that is. And like I said, that doesn't begin until 2026.
Right. And then the other question on my mind, some people have asked me about news with respect to hearing aids becoming available over the counter. That's not part of the Inflation Reduction Act. That's a separate act, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That is correct. And that, again, that's a great point, Bob, because while not inside the scope of the Inflation Reduction Act, it is a notable change because hearing aids can be very, very expensive. And the fact that it can be sold on an over-the-counter basis is a large development.
Right. So we covered a lot of ground. Anything we missed or anything just bears reemphasizing before we wrap up?
I'm sure more details will come out about each of the components that we spoke about today, Bob. And pretty soon we're going to be coming up to the annual election period where people will be able to adjust either their Part D plans or Medicare Advantage plans. So the news will continue to flow.
Jae, as always, it's such a treat and pleasure chatting with you about all things Medicare. And I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with our viewers. Thanks.
It's my privilege as always, Bob.